So, you want to be learning about the Bullywug. Misa likes this. So, Bullywugs, this is another request that I had from somebody that I'm sorry it took me so long to get around to this, but I'm sort of catching up. Bullywugs are amphibians. They are a challenge rating 1/4, so they're basically the things that you throw at people at reasonably low level. And the challenge of using Bullywugs is that they specialize in capturing people. They don't necessarily kill people outright. They're not savages. They actually have a sort of a civilization, and they have a massive inferiority complex. So the reason why I used the voice of the chief of the what's Jar Jar's, the Gungans from Star Trek, basically very much a reflection of what Bullywug society is like. So if you think about Bullywugs as Gungans in D&D, you're pretty much spot on. That's exactly the niche that they fit into. So another thing is that if you look at their stat blocks and things, they can breathe air and water. They can speak with frogs and toads, so that they use other amphibians as their minions and pack animals and ambush partners and things like that. They have swamp camouflage, which gives them advantage on dexterity stealth checks made to hide in swampy terrain, and you're basically always going to find them in swampy terrain. So, and not only do they have advantage on the stealth, but they also have a +3 on their stealth skill. So, Bullywugs are swamp ninja gungans, and they should you should never encounter Bullywugs as a group that are chasing you, or you come across them and they're just sort of standing around guarding someplace or something like that. They are always just croaking voices that you don't see. You don't know that they're there until they're on you, and they have herded you into a very good situation for them to ambush you, because Bullywugs have got an IQ of 7, and they're not stupid. They've got a wisdom of 10, so they have a human equivalent intelligence. Now, they're not strong, they're not fast, they're not particularly agile, but they do have a very good jump. They can make a standing leap of 20 feet high. 20 feet long and up to 10 feet high. Now that's a damn good jump. And so if you think about a perfect Bullywug ambush, let's say you're wandering along a forest path that becomes a swamp path that becomes relatively narrow due to impassable terrain, mires and quicksands and things like that, and really dense and impenetrable thorns and thickets, or really thick patches of reeds and things that it's very hard to move through. And the Bullywugs know this. They've created a natural choke point that's leading into their territory that they've tended to for years. So it's got everything that they need. Not only that, but they've got some giant frogs which are lying sort of in wait to the sides. And once you go past those giant frogs will roar, or maybe even salamanders or some other sort of giant snails or something really strong and big, but not particularly dangerous. And so the best option is just generally to get away from the thing. So you run forward, and you run straight into pits or quicksand or tar pits or some sort of concealed mire or bog that the Bullywugs can jump straight over. They've got no problem with that. So maybe you're chased by the Bullywugs suddenly appear in mass behind you. You run forward, you get mired, they jump over you, jump over something else, and then they lay into you with spears, which they can throw from a distance. So they can throw, up to 60 feet at long range or 20 feet short range. And that's far enough, really, if your melee fighters can't get out of a situation where they're being held, or if the giant frogs are coming at them from behind with their big tongues and things and pulling the fighters back constantly and trying to engulf them and swallow them whole, in which case you got the whole problem of being restrained and having acid slowly eat you to death. Now the Bullywugs, once giant frogs have taken them all, will take them back to their chieftain and present them as prizes as they beast themselves in front of is beast the right word? As they fawn and sycophant in front of their chieftain, and the chieftain's like putting on this big show of being a noble grandiose king of the swamps, and basically playing up his position as much as he can, because they really do have this insuperiority complex. Now, they like to present trinkets and gems and works of art and things like that to get better status amongst themselves. So they will raid caravans and things like that and take everything of value that's pretty and gaudy and looks expensive. They won't necessarily take things like food and things like that, because it's not that impressive to them, because the swamp is rich in food. They don't really need to worry about food overly much, and they don't eat humanoids and things unless, I guess, the swamp's fallen on really bad times. That's the job of lizard folk. Lizard folk will certainly eat them. So Bullywugs are a diplomatic sort of situation quite often. If you just sort of surrender and get taken in front of the Bullywugs leader as a player character, then you're probably going to get out of it alive. You might be robbed of everything that's expensive looking on you. They'll even take the clothes off your back. And the funny thing is you can really play up the Bullywugs being kind of ridiculous in this over-the-top nobility. And the court sycophants who, that's the word I was looking for, sycophants who, like the Moidian traders, they wear robes and ostentatious stuff like that to make themselves more important, and they'll have minions and things, frog minions and other lesser creatures which they're ordering around in their croaky voices, but putting on lots of airs and graces when they live in this stinking swamp. And even as you're watching, the fine arts and fabrics and things like that are getting soiled and chewed up by fungus and vermin and things like that. And the king is sitting on what used to be ostentatious surroundings, which are now soiled and rotten. And they quickly lose interest in it because it's not meeting up with the expectations, and so they demand better things from their underlings, and their underlings will go out and steal them as best they can. So yeah, Bullywugs are interesting little characters, not necessarily lethally dangerous, but if you get into a pitch fight with these things, don't underestimate their ability to master. They're ninja-like, they can run and jump better than anybody, they've got big, burly, giant frog minions that they can put you up against. And don't underestimate a huge amount of spears coming at you from a distance, because there's not a lot you can do about that when your feet don't move when you're stuck in quicksand. So yeah, before you get into an encounter with them, make sure you prepare by knowing your swamp terrain, read up on terrain effects and things like that, read up on potential amphibians and other sorts of creatures that you can use. Go and watch Gungans to get some idea of what their speech and mannerisms might be like, but have a lot of fun with the characterization of the court and how they behave. Yeah, so Bullywugs are a lot of fun.